Tony Jazz is a lifestyle manager, a professional butler, a restaurant reviewer, inspirational international speaker, and CEO of Butlers of Mayfair, Bespoke Events Limited. The first episode of what we call a free association in psychology, where Tony sat in a room by himself and he just responded to a question I put forth, or just an area to look at, and that was black men and the responsibility conversation. So do check that out on YouTube now at UK Black Men Talk Show. Not right now, obviously, but do check it out, guys. UK Black Men Talk Show. For today, for this motivational part of the show, Tony Jazz is going to share his narratives around black men and self-development. This is his original recording, Black Men and Self-Development. So listen carefully, guys, listen carefully.
Men's self-development. I think that self-development can be categorized, or should be categorized, in three areas, which is personal, professional, and financial. In my last briefing that I just said, I talked about a book. And in the black community, we don't read enough. And a lot of things that we need to apply in ourselves as black men can be found in a book. That's why in the Nation of Islam too, we're encouraged to read books. We're encouraged to read, period. And the Quran, the word means read, recite. And there's a lot of knowledge from many of our people in books today. And now these books are at our fingertips on the internet, and you can even get some in audio. And yet we're still in the state that we're in. And as Hosea said, the prophet said, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." So self-development in those three areas, or what we look at, or what we intake into or digest into our mind, is what's killing us and producing the ill effect that we see. So just as we have a diet, which is food that gives us life, and we see the results of our health in what we eat. As they say, you are what you eat. When we look around in the state of many black men today, you can tell that the diet has been very poor in what we're putting into our minds, or mindset. And in those three areas, personal, professional, and financial development, is the categories that we need to get books on. So I know one of the things that started me out on this road, in a sense, for many years ago, my dad always had books, so he was always, but more spiritual books. So I was always inclined to have books, and because I was not too, when I was born, I wasn't too well, I kind of got more into listening and reading and so forth. So books were a bit of a solace to me. But my mom is the one who really pushed books to me, and then we will have a discussion, family discussion. So they used to have a saying, if you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book. And unfortunately, that's true. Because a lot of people will say to you now as well, where can I get the movie? I understand. But books is something that once you read the book and you read the page, it kind of changes your DNA or the way you think. It rewires your brain. When you see something written down, that's why they say when you have a goal, you should write it down and read it back to yourself. When you read it back, it's reprogramming your wiring. And words have meaning, and that's why people go into affirmations and all that kind of stuff, which work. They're not abracadabra magic. You have to do work behind the affirmation. Some people don't understand that, but words have meaning. That's like curse words. Reason why we call it curse words is because you start cursing, you using words that curse, where you giving out bad negative vibes. So getting back on to development, as black men, we need to develop in our personal behavior. We have to realize what we've been doing for the last XXX decades in our life may not work in this decade. As I say to many of my associates and friends, every year I don't make resolutions, I just change. I look back and reflect on that year and think, right, I gotta change what I was doing. And you know what caused a lot of us to do that? COVID-19, the pandemic, the lockdown. We had to change direction. We had to rethink. We had to go in ourselves. And what we have to accept that what you may be today or how you think today is not necessarily going to be sufficient for you to think tomorrow. Or how you behave today is not sufficient for you to behave like that tomorrow. So it's an evolution. And they say if you don't if you're not evolving, you're not living. And I don't know about you, but sometimes you meet some, could be men or women, but we're just talking about black men today. See some black men hanging around, betting shops today. Over my age, nearly 60 something. And they're drinking the alcohol and they're whistling at the schoolgirls. It's behavior of like when they were 16. They haven't grown, they haven't evolved from that state of thinking. They haven't read anything to change them or applied it. And then when it comes to personal development, we cannot expect to personally develop in our behavior if we do not associate with those who we want to develop into. So if you want to be a good musician or you want to be a good entertainer, Michael Jackson used to spend time with Quincy Jones, people like Stevie Wonder and some of the great legends. He spent time back in the 80s before his solo career. He spent time going to the recording studio and study these people. So your personal development also depends on who you hang around with, because misery loves company. And I mean, imagine if I was to go to one of those betting shops now and start talking about some deep knowledge about, I don't know, something to do with, something deep. They won't be able to carry the conversation, or it would go off on a tangent because they probably so liquored up they won't understand. So, if we want to develop, we have to go associate with the people that we want to develop into. That don't mean that you disown your kind, but you're really not looking at kind now. You're looking at mind. You see, I don't care if you're black, white, green, pink, or red. If your mind is the same as mine that I want to develop into, I'll talk to you. I don't have to hang out with you 24/7, but I will talk to you and get and glean from you what I can get. That's what I do in my personal work. You see, I work with top celebrities. I look after statesmen. I remember doing a dinner for a week before their company went bust. Never forgot that. Because I heard these men, they were salesmen, and how they were talking about collateral damage and, how much money they were making and blah, blah, blah. I saw how they think. It wasn't that I want to emulate through them, but I was getting a better understanding how the banking system works. and how these people at the top actually think about you as collateral damage.